Today's video is about Manta Network. Manta is a new, fast-growing, modular Ethereum layer 2 rollup, and in today's video I'll talk about what exactly all that means and what differentiates Manta from other layer 2s. We'll talk about how you can buy the Manta token and access Manta's ecosystem, as well as some leading applications on Manta Network today. We'll go through the Manta token and its tokenomics, and then finally I'll talk about some risks and opportunities associated with Manta. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice. Although I'll talk about several different cryptocurrencies and crypto applications in this video, this isn't a suggestion that you use or buy any of the things I talk about. This is only intended to be informative. Now let's get into the video. To start, let's talk about what exactly Manta is and how it's different from all of the many other dozens of Ethereum layer 2s that are on the market today. To start, here's the Manta website, and first thing is they call out that they are a zkEVM, and we'll break down exactly what that means. EVM means Ethereum Virtual Machine, means that Manta is Ethereum compatible. Applications that are already deployed on Ethereum or other Ethereum compatible networks can easily be redeployed onto Manta. And truthfully, most Ethereum layer 2s are EVMs. Arbitrum's an EVM, Optimism's an EVM. There's even some non-Ethereum rollups, other chains that are also EVMs. For example, Avalanche, Phantom are also EVMs. But one of the things that really distinguishes Manta is that it's a zkEVM. That means it's a ZK rollup. And for example, Arbitrum, Optimism, those are optimistic rollups, whereas something like Polygon, zkEVM, zkSync Era, Linea, Mantle are ZK rollups. And why does that matter? Basically, ZK rollups are widely acknowledged to be a more scalable, superior way of building a rollup than an optimistic rollup. However, it wasn't possible until relatively recently to actually make an Ethereum compatible ZK rollup, which is why some of these older but still widely used rollups like Arbitrum and Optimism use optimistic rollup technology rather than ZK rollups. Other thing to note, and I think this is really the thing that distinguishes Manta from those other ZK rollups that I just mentioned, is that Manta uses Celestia as a data availability layer. And what that means is that usually most Ethereum rollups, they use Ethereum both for data availability and for settlement. Manta, on the other hand, uses Ethereum for settlement, but uses Celestia for data availability. This is a quick diagram of the architecture, and you don't need to know exactly what all of these things mean. If you really want to go into the nitty-gritty of Celestia, I have another video about that I'll link in the description. But basically, you can see here that call data is going from Manta over to the modular data availability layer, and they are using Celestia for that. And the effect of this is that transactions on Manta are significantly cheaper than most other Ethereum layer 2s. Next thing we'll note before we talk about some other intricacies of the Manta ecosystem is that there are actually two different Manta networks. There's Manta Atlantic and Manta Pacific, right? Like Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean. Manta Atlantic is much older and is a ZK layer 1 in the Polkadot ecosystem. However, when people talk about Manta today, if you've heard people talking about DeFi on Manta, airdrops on Manta, they are almost always referring to the Manta Pacific. Manta Pacific is the Ethereum layer 2. You can see it's highlighted on their website here. And Manta Pacific is basically where everything we're going to talk about today takes place. It's where most of the money is, where the users are. So if you hear Manta Atlantic, that's what it is. It's the Polkadot layer 1, but we are talking about Manta Pacific. And Manta Pacific, in truth, has gotten a lot of traction. This is their ecosystem page. Look at this. There's hundreds of applications and investors involved in the Manta ecosystem. You can see some of these are infrastructure, some of them are wallets, some of them are DeFi applications, some of them are NFT applications. There's a lot of people who are building on this network, and truthfully, I think there's likely to be a lot more in the future. If you go over here to their accelerator page, they have a ZK app accelerator that they've done in partnership with Polygon and Celestia. And basically, the goal of this accelerator is to build and foster more consumer applications on Manta. And they're focused on three different types of applications right now. First is ZK applications. Those are basically applications that use ZK proofs to offer additional privacy and scalability features that might not be possible with a normal blockchain application. And because Manta has an intuitive framework for zk snarks, that's a type of zk proof, they make it easier to build zk applications on Manta. They're also looking to bring a lot more on-chain games onto Manta. And one of the things with on-chain games, it's been thought of as a way that could bring a lot of new consumers into crypto. However, on-chain games usually involve a lot of microtransactions, and you really need a network that's scalable with very low transaction fees for that. And then finally, they have SocialFi. SocialFi, so something like Friends Tech. There's some other SocialFi applications out there. Again, this blends social media with crypto, and one of the things with this is that, again, it's going to involve a lot of microtransactions, maybe several per day for a lot of consumers. And so because of that, it really needs to have low gas fees. And so those are the applications that Manta is looking to accelerate. And even before doing all of that, they've managed to gain quite a bit of traction. If you look over here on L2B, this is a website that tracks the usage of Ethereum layer 2s, then we can see that Manta is already number 3 in terms of deposits, right? I mean, look at this. So in comparison, Base, this is Coinbase's Ethereum layer 2, has 846 million, and Manta Pacific has $1.84 billion have already been loaded into the network. Optimism, which has been around for years and is a great chain with a thriving DeFi ecosystem, has $7.45 billion deposited. So Manta Pacific is already competitive with some of the largest Ethereum layer 2s, despite being really only around for a month or two. And I think that's pretty impressive. If we look over in the terms of how much of that money has actually found its way into DeFi, then already nearly $600 million has found its way into DeFi. It's just been growing consistently since launching. Part of that is because price in the market is going up. Don't get me wrong. But the TVL is doing very well. I'll note that volume on decentralized exchanges on Manta did peak back on January 31st and kind of was trending down for a while, and then has been steady around $2 million a day for a week or two. If I were watching for signs of growth in the ecosystem, I would definitely want to see that volume pick up at some point. All right, and if you heard all of this and you are ready to start using Manta, here's how. And in this video, I'm going to focus on how to buy and use Manta using DeFi applications directly in your wallet, because first off, this is a DeFi channel. Second off, it is almost impossible to find an exchange that allows people in the United States to buy Manta. And as I'm in the United States, it's much easier for me personally to access this network entirely on-chain. So the first thing you'll need is a wallet where you can store Manta. MetaMask works if you've been using Ethereum on-chain or other EVM chains. You probably have a MetaMask already, but get a MetaMask, and then what you'll have to do is you'll have to add Manta to the MetaMask. I like this website, chainless.org. This is run by DeFi Llama, whose site I reference all the time for stats about DeFi. You can type in Manta here, and you'll see you can add Manta Pacific mainnet to your MetaMask. Click on Add to MetaMask, and it will basically prompt you to add the chain to your MetaMask. And once you've done that, the next step is just you need to bridge some funds over to Manta. And now there's two main options you can use for this. First is if you have funds on Ethereum, you can use the Manta Pacific official bridge. And note, this bridge also offers for you to add your chain to MetaMask through it. But you can use the Manta Pacific bridge here and bridge any of several tokens over to Manta. Or what I prefer to use is actually RocketX. RocketX is a exchange, is a kind of like a bridge that allows you to access hundreds of different blockchains. And so RocketX is kind of my go-to for most of these things with more rare chains. And the thing that's nice about this is that you can swap your ETH or whatever other token you're bridging directly into Manta. So you bridge over a certain amount of ETH, and then it will actually convert it to Manta for you, and then the Manta will appear in your wallet. And once you're there, there's some pretty cool applications on Manta. If we look over on DeFi Llama, we can see that there's a few dozen. I'm going to focus on some of the leading ones here today. First, you have Layerbank. Layerbank is a money market that's focused on Ethereum layer 2s, and you can see they're on Linea, they're on Scroll, they're on Manta. Obviously, we're going to use it on Manta. And Layer Bank is, as of now, the largest application on Manta by far. And so what can you do on there? You can, for example, you can lend out your Manta tokens. You can use your Manta tokens as collateral to borrow other funds. You can do the same thing with ETH or some of these other tokens here. And yeah, could be a good way to earn some yield on your tokens, or otherwise to basically use them as collateral to borrow other funds to use in the ecosystem. But keep in mind that anything involving leverage is going to involve some risk. And note that Layer Bank has this incentives program going on right now where you can earn points, and those points go towards receiving some Manta network incentives. So that's something to consider as well in terms of how lucrative Layer Bank could be. The next application on Manta that you might be interested in using is Shoebill Finance. Shoebill is the second largest money market on Manta. However, they have some interesting features that allow you to potentially qualify for multiple airdrops by supplying funds to their market. And so on Manta, they only have a few markets. They have Stone, which is a form of liquid staked ETH. They have ETH. They have USDM, which is a yield-bearing stablecoin. And then they have USDC, which you probably know, USDC. And basically, this is interesting because if you hover over this supply APY for Stone, for example, then we can see that you're earning the APY for lending it. You are earning the APY because of the fact that it's a yield-bearing token. Then you're also earning Shoebill points. So Shoebill doesn't have a token. They have a point system. And then you're also accruing points towards receiving the actual Manta token rewards because Manta is doing an incentives program right now. And then if you look down here in this leveraged ETH Stone strategy, then you can see that you are also actually receiving eigenlayer restaking points. So if you have some ETH that you want to put to use, then potentially this could be an interesting way to do it. But keep in mind, every layer of smart contract risk you add adds something else that can go wrong, whether it's a hack, whether it's depegging. And so I would keep that in mind when you're using Shoebill. Just understand all of the risks. That being said, if you have some risk tolerance, this could be a good way to qualify for several airdrops at once. The next application on Manta that you might be interested in is Aperture Finance. Aperture Finance is one of the leading decentralized exchanges on Manta, and they differentiate themselves in a few ways. First is they have some pretty advanced tools for liquidity management. Second, they have limit orders enabled, which not every decentralized exchange does, but those are quite useful, right? If you want to, for example, wait to buy at a certain price, but you don't want to stay up all night. And additionally, Aperture does not yet have a token, so by using Aperture, you are potentially qualifying for a future airdrop. And the final application on Manta that I want to share is LogX. LogX is a perpetual DEX on Manta. Basically, that allows you to trade with leverage. If you access it, you'll see that it looks very similar to a centralized exchange. And LogX is actually on several different networks, but Manta is one of the primary networks it's on. It's relatively small, but growing quickly. And I want to highlight it because, first off, perp DEXs have proven to be one of the more profitable types of DeFi applications. And second off, LogX has a confirmed airdrop. They're airdropping 12% of the total supply, and you can earn points to it by trading on LogX or by providing liquidity. Next up, let's talk about the tokenomics of the Manta token. As of the time I'm making this video, the Manta token is currently trading at $3.12, and that gives it a market cap of $780 million. However, note that only 251 million Manta tokens are currently in circulation, compared to a total supply of 1 billion tokens, which gives it a fully diluted valuation of $3.1 billion. And so note that's relatively low, only about a quarter are in circulation, however not unheard of for a new network. And since launching, the token has performed fairly well. It's down from its peak, but over the past few weeks it has been trending upwards, and still, in my view, relatively low market cap for a widely used layer 2. If we look at some other layer 2s, for example, on CoinGecko, by the way, useful thing to know is there's a category section on CoinGecko. If we look at some other layer 2s in the category section, then we can see that for comparison, Immutable X is currently has a market cap of $4.7 billion. Arbitrum is $3.8 billion. Excuse me, Optimism is $3.8 billion. Arbitrum is $2.5 billion. And if we look at the fully diluted valuation of some of these things, Arbitrum is $20 million. So if Manta is able to keep and continue to grow its usage, then I think its valuation is actually quite reasonable, right? And compared to something like Arbitrum and Optimism, it actually seems like it's has a relatively good valuation, if not being undervalued compared to some of these other layer 2s that have significantly larger market caps and fully diluted valuation. If you look at the token unlock schedule for Manta, then you can see that there's pretty heavy unlocks over the next few years, really ongoing until 2028. So you've got about 4 years of steady unlocks to look forward to. So I would consider that definitely a risk. And in fact, if you look here on a 1 year time frame, you can see that there's a pretty heavy unlock coming in April. And note that this unlocks doesn't even include staking rewards. So I would say that's definitely a pretty significant risk for Manta. Is although the valuation is fair compared to many other layer 2s, they are always going to have that constant overhang of having unlocks coming out. As far as the utility of the Manta token, if we go over here to their tokenomics light paper, then a few things are called out. First is that Manta token holders will have power over network governance on Manta Pacific. And although governance can be kind of a meme in crypto, in truth, for a blockchain that has billions of dollars at stake, I think governance actually could be somewhat important. The other thing is that whole DeFi ecosystem we talked about before, notice how many of those applications use Manta as a token for collateral, as a pair for decentralized exchanges, etc., etc. So there's going to be a lot of demand for Manta to actually use it in the network itself. Other thing I'll note is that there's also some benefits related to Manta's utility on Manta Atlantic. Remember, that's the old Polkadot layer 1 that has existed for a bit longer. For example, on that network, Manta is used to pay transaction fees, and it's staked to contribute to the overall security of the network. Finally, let's go through some of the risks and opportunities associated with Manta today. I would say one of the biggest opportunities is the fact that in a short time, Manta Pacific has already accumulated a massive amount of deposits. If they're able to leverage these deposits into having a thriving DeFi ecosystem, then I could see Manta's DeFi ecosystem quickly becoming one of the most dynamic, one of the largest in the Ethereum layer 2 space, if not the entire DeFi space. Similarly, they have a pretty powerful accelerator right now with some major partners, Polygon and Celestia, and then the tech improvements that actually would give developers a reason to want to build on Manta. So if they can combine those partners with the funds, with the tech improvements, with the fact that they already have a lot of money in their ecosystem, then it's very possible that many applications will launch on Manta, and it could fulfill that vision. As far as the risks, first risk I would note is these tokenomics we talked about before. That is a lot of unlocks coming, and although Manta certainly could generate buy pressure to counteract the unlocks, it's already performing fairly well, as we noted a second ago. As we go through the next year, if you're looking to hold Manta for 1 year, maybe even longer, then just note that, for example, 1 year from now, there's going to be around 405 million Manta in supply, compared to only 250 million in circulation today. So there's going to be pretty heavy inflation over the next year. The next risk is that while Manta has attracted a very impressive number of deposits already, $1.84 billion, some of that could be hype around Manta's recent launch, as well as people who wanted to qualify for the initial Manta airdrop. And while so far this has continued to grow, I think there is some real risk that as time wears on, maybe hype moves to new chains or other chains. You see some of those deposits move elsewhere, and potentially Manta finds itself back in this range of $500 million to $1 billion with a bunch of other layer 2s like Base, Metis, Mantle, zkSync, Era. And then even though Manta has things to differentiate itself, it's really going to have to slug it out with these other layer 2s for a share of user attention. If you want to learn more about the latest trends, tools, and opportunities in crypto, be sure to subscribe to my newsletter at dynamodefi.substack.com. I cover some of the latest trending cryptos each week and how you can actually capitalize on those trends. And for more videos like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.